You probably clicked on that thumbnail seeing the British flag and the L66, and you thought, well, I've never heard of that. What is an L66? And now you're looking at this and thinking, that looks like a Walther model PP. What's the deal? Did the British copy the PP? And the answer is no, they didn't. Thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and this is, in fact, a British L66A1 pistol, which is, in fact, a Walther PP in caliber 22 long rifle purchased directly from Walther. In 1974, the British government purchased about 3,000, maybe 3,200 of these pistols specifically to issue them out as personal defense weapons to the Ulster Defense Regiment. These guys were, of course, stationed up in Northern Ireland. It was a dangerous place to be for obvious reasons, and while they had rifles and regular small arms available on duty, some of these guys, a lot of these guys, did not have arms available off-duty, and that is the purpose of the L66. It was actually issued out as a personal protective weapon, something that you could, in fact, conceal carry. Guys who did this would get a military permit card saying that they were authorized to carry it. I've seen accounts from a number of veterans of the period who said that, yeah, absolutely, they were issued these out and they appreciated having them from time to time. So let's take a closer look, because there are a few distinct things that differentiate this from any other commercial Walther. These guns do not appear to have been in a single sequential serial number range, but their serial numbers will all be in the low 40,000s, so 41 to 45,000. Roughly in that range, and they're of course serialized, and then they don't actually have the regular commercial Ulm proof marks. That's the German commercial proof mark. You'd recognize it for having like an elk antler is the symbol from the Ulm proof house. Instead, probably because these were going to the British military, these were actually proofed by the German military at the Koblenz facility, and so they have a military pair of military Eagle proof marks right there. This particular one was imported into the US. We'll talk about that in a minute, but that's what this mark is. That's Interarms Corporation of Alexandria, Virginia, and that's their import mark. The serial number is repeated there on the frame, and it does end with an LR, which is long rifle for the 22 caliber version. You of course have a 22 caliber muzzle and a 22 caliber magazine. On the left side of the slide, we have all the standard Walther proof marks, plus two more of those Koblenz German military proof marks. Now, these look really hard to read. It looks like they're almost buried under, say, a black lacquer refinish, and that's exactly the case. Around 1980, a lot of the guns were refurbished. They were parkerized and then covered in black lacquer, a lacquer called Suncorite, which apparently is best known for being like insanely toxic and no longer in use. But that's what the British military was using at the time, so that's what these have. At the same time, they also retrofitted them with newer, stronger firing pins, and they marked the guns with a P on the back of the slide when they did that, so that indicates the firing pin retrofit. And some, but not all of them, were retrofitted to add a lanyard ring or loop to the back of the grip. This particular one does not have that lanyard loop. And that's pretty much it. Nothing else mechanically distinctive about the guns. They're 22 caliber Walthers. They just happen to have been formally adopted, given a type designation, and issued out by the British military. By the late 1980s, these guys were on their way out. In 1989, they were formally replaced as personal defense weapons with Walther P5 compact pistols, which were designated the L102A1, and also SIG P230 pistols, which are designated the L109A1. The L, of course, is for land service, and then they just sequentially number everything. So that's why you get some weird numbers. At any rate, remarkably, even more remarkably than the British government purchasing personal protective pistols for its soldiers, would be the fact that when they pulled them out of service, they actually sold them off commercially, which is really unusual for the British. But a bunch of them ended up on the surplus market in Europe sometime in the mid-1990s, early 1990s. Interarms brought something like 1,500 of them into the United States, and so they are actually floating around here in the US, although I think a lot of people don't recognize exactly what they are because As you saw, the markings on them don't necessarily shout British service issue sidearm, but they are, in fact. This is one of the very few, if perhaps maybe even the only, historical instance of a military actually issuing a .22 caliber rimfire firearm as something other than some sort of sneaky assassin's pistol. So I'd like to give a big thanks to Ozark Bear Arms for loaning us this one to show to you guys. If you're ever down in Missouri, don't miss a chance to check out his really cool machine gun rental range. He's got a wide variety of, in particular, historical cool machine guns that you can rent and try out. Thanks for watching.